Buenos dias, Graeme, and thank you for joining us today at Business Spotlight Series. Today, I am excited to introduce Graeme Gordon, CEO of IFB, Internet for Business Ltd. Welcome, Graeme.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to have you. What a great welcome. Thank you.
Now, Graeme, you're in the business of ultra-fast connectivity, managed cybersecurity, business phone systems, and cloud and data center hosting. How do you end up in this business?
I'm an electronics engineer by trade. My father encouraged me to get a skill and a piece of paper. So I did an HND, Aberdeen College, technical college here in Aberdeen, as it was in the day, to go into the oil and gas industry, because that was the main employer. Engineering, chemical engineering is too difficult. Mechanical engineering and then electrical I see side by side. So I went into that, did my time, did block release. I suppose modern apprenticeship equivalent would be on site for X amount of weeks, etc. And that was great because I was earning money and learning at the same time, which I've always wanted to do, is earn money. And then Sue, my wife, we got married. We had Cameron, and we just moved back to Aberdeen because we stayed up north for a while in Murray Coast. And Sue's father, John, who's quite entrepreneurial, bought an IT company, an internet service provider, which was going bust. He bought the asset and then realized he needed somebody to run the sales side of things. So we had a Sunday afternoon chat, as you do. Hey, I've bought a company. Do you want to come and work for me? No, not really, father-in-law. I think let's be friends rather than boss. And he convinced me to come and work for him. And that was 29 years ago this August.
Wow, good.
Yeah.
And did things pan out the way you thought on that Sunday when you jumped into this venture?
Excuse me. Have they worked out? Well, we're still together. We still speak.
That's good.
I think that John is a very successful retailer, retail pharmacy. They've got community at their heart in everything they do, and he gets a very wide picture. So he's a very typical Scottish SME. Within retail, half a dozen shops, serving the community, opening the shops up, closing the shops down. Very well known within it, and second generational. I think what I hope for as I got into this thing, that the internet, 1995, what's this thing, the internet? It might be a good thing to get into. Let's give it a go. We'll try it there. We should have been more ambitious. I should have been more ambitious for him, bearing in mind that I was in my sort of mid to late 20s at that point and never really run a business. I've always wanted to be my own boss. I always wanted to be in charge of my own destiny as much as I could be, or as far as you could be. And I think early doors, we could have been more ambitious, but that's hindsight. And has it worked out? Again, we're still friends. We still speak. We still my chairman. But that ambition sewed in, I think, is something that a lot of SMEs talk themselves out of or don't believe in, certainly founder owner managers. So that's where we could have been. We've had some great ideas, but ideas are 10 a penny. It's about how you execute them. And that's how I view it. Yeah.
Brilliant. You mentioned about we could have been more ambitious, and that's a great area because that happens to all businesses, really. Tell us a little bit more about that. I mean, I always think about being in the comfort zone, putting yourself outside the comfort zone, fear of the unknown, risk. Tell us a little bit more about your experience.
So I'm 57 this year, and I think the thing that holds businesses back in Scotland the most is cash. Without a doubt, it's cash, because we are afraid to lose it. We like when we make it. We're happy when we've got a positive bank balance, and that's personally as well as in business. What we're not good at is going and asking for money to grow businesses. Some people are. There are shining examples in Scotland and in the UK of fantastic business people, entrepreneurs who have had a great big idea that they knew they needed cash to fund that next stage, that ambition, and have worked out how to go and ask for it, who to go and ask for it. And I think that's the biggest, that's always been the thing. The Americans call it bootstrap. There are so many bootstrap businesses that are fine. And I've done a TEDx talk about fine. Fine is the worst 4-letter F word you can use, because it's not happy and it's in the median. What you want to be is great, you know, or do you want to be great? You know, that's also your own ambition. You know, at the point we were at, where we've got a great family, we've got very healthy, respectful, uh, and grown up children. They're all out in life and that's success for us. We've given the kids that start. But the ambition in business, the biggest fear factor, I think, for most companies is cash and being embarrassed to ask for it, embarrassed to lose for it. And that's the biggest risk factor. I think the plan and how you use that cash, rather than I've got a great idea and I need £1 million to do it, how
Yeah.
are you going to spend those £1 million and who am I going to ask for it? I think that's the biggest inhibitor in Scotland. There's lots of cash around. It's how you ask for it.
Yes. Great point. You mentioned about, you know, many people have ideas, very few people execute on them. And I think the best example I can think of, Graeme, is the guy who founded Uber, the taxi company. He was in Paris, and he wanted a taxi to go to the airport, and he couldn't find a taxi. And I've been in that boat. I've been in Paris with a taxi. I couldn't find one. So this guy flew back to California, really pissed off that he, you know, that he couldn't, and he nearly missed his flight. And he set up Uber. He came up with the idea. He came up with the idea out of a frustration, and he executed on it. And and there are many people that have ideas, and what a great idea, but don't execute. So brilliant. What are the in terms of recruitment? Many businesses out there across all industries find difficult to find talent, to retain talent. What's your experience in Scotland?
Well, maybe get to the future part in terms of digital skills, and we'll come back to that one. I think to date we've never really had a problem recruiting. We very early doors, you know, because we're based in Aberdeen, and if you don't know Aberdeen and you're listening to this podcast, you can't see any oil rigs from the beach. You know, that's not how it works. But when the Aberdeen postcode in the North Sea oil and gas production was on its toes, it was contributing 23% to GDP in the UK. You know, it's a massive contributor. So therefore, it needed lots of skills. It needed lots of people to do that. And we were very lucky that we had the geography to attract and retain some really big companies, you know, some of the world's biggest service companies. So where do we sit in an SME there? We sit there that we're usually providing the fodder for these big companies, that engineers, salespeople, admin people would come and work for us 2, 3, 4 years. They maybe come out of university or college, maybe first or second job, and they would get really good at being in a business, because the thing you learn in an SME, there's only 16 of us, you know, so we're a £4 million turnover, 16 people in the employment. Everybody gets to see or hear just about everything in the business. So you become this 360 individual. And when you go into a silo in a big company, you're worth a heck of a lot more. So early doors, I recognized that we became a training organization or a feeding organization for the big companies, because by the time you get to X amount of qualifications or expertise or experience, you're worth probably 2 or 3 times more that an SME can spend on you, but you become part of a much bigger company. There's a downside to that. You know, we've had people who come the other way from the big companies, and they've been in there and they've made great money and they've enjoyed their life, but actually they want to come and be part of something that they can contribute to and they know they're contributing to. And nothing wrong with corporates. I think one of my biggest regrets, and I don't have many, is I didn't work in a corporate long enough to give me that structured discipline toward workflow. I should have done. And because corporates will give you that. I think anybody, you're either exceptional and you're out of university with a brilliant idea, and you're that 0.01% of people who have never had to work in a big business. Therefore, you know what you like and you don't like. So our position there in terms of people's retention and skill set, we've never really had a problem. We probably pay more for our team salary levels than we would somebody in the middle of Glasgow or Manchester or Leeds, perhaps. Maybe Manchester's slightly different, because we're competing with a single industry that can, when there's a project on in the North Sea and it's $1 billion project, 5%, 10%, 20% in salaries is nothing. So that's where we're at. How do we cure that going into the future? I think without being political, we've screwed up the education system in Scotland. I think education should be getting people to do whatever they're doing next, not go into further education. And whether that's getting you ready to work, I've spent some time in schools that will have me speak to 4th and 5th year pupils to say, if you have a piece of paper, if a door opens, a piece of paper will allow you to walk through it, but it won't find the door for you. You're the one that needs to find that door. And sometimes when you find that door, you can walk through it without a piece of paper if you don't need it. So, what is it you want to do? Further education is a wonderful thing. Again, I've got an HND, I didn't do a degree. But that moving forward is critical, that we get certainly secondary education, definitely further education, whether that's colleges and universities who are all under pressure right now financially, let's face it. How do we get them to generate the next generation of workforce who are completely different to what they've been over the last 10 or 15 years, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. What are the attributes that you look for when you recruit people to fit into the culture and the IFT?
Yeah, preparation. If we interview somebody and they say, I have found out about IFB and this is what I think you do, because you're at the other side of the desk. You're going to read my marketing material. You're going to read my bump. You're going to read, this is what I found out about you. And this is why I want to come and work for you. And I think we've lost that expertise in interviewing and recruitment. I think people rock up and go, I don't want to work here, or do I want to work, or do I need this? I mean, I cannot believe since COVID, I cannot believe how many people we've offered jobs to have accepted and then decided not to come.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Yeah, and you sit there. My father would have skinned me. He would have, if I had accepted a job and they said, I don't fancy that.
Same here.
Yeah. So, and that doesn't mean my dad was right, but I think there's a respect there. If you want respect from me as an employer, you have to give it to me as an employee. And being able to say, right, okay, how do we solve this? What needs done? How do we do this next? This is why I think this is a good idea. And we've got a team that works that way. And so I'm looking for somebody who comes to interview and says, I find out as much as I can about your business, and this is why I would want to come and work for you, because I have a skill set, because I have a longing to find out about. I think I could be part of this team. That's somebody who's interested. I like interested people because they're interesting. It's a two-way thing. If somebody, hey, it's a great bookshelf you've got in the back. Tell me about the blue book you've got there. When did you read that, or what drew you to that? And then listen to the answer. Well, I don't really read books, so what got you? It's interesting and interested, and it's conversational. It's human nature.
How important is values? Do you have company values that make up the IFB culture? And how important is that for you when you recruit people?
Yeah, it's a good one, because you asked me about our values now, and I've got to recite them. And reciting them sounds mechanical. It's not. Every company has a culture. Sometimes it just doesn't go recognized. And I think in a small company, we just need to get things done, So our values are, our purpose is to maximize and support our customers' uptime. That means everything we do should make you work, keep you working. We should have fun getting it done, and we'll come back to the fun word in a minute. Oh, you've really got me on the spot now. Anyway, 4 of them. And I should know them. I've just rewritten part of the book, which is we take pride. We take pride in and respect in each other. That's a key one. Sorry, but it's all about people in action. We can make a statement, but what are the actions that relate to that? Okay, well, if you phone me up as a customer and you've got a problem, right? Okay, sorry, you're having a problem, whether it's our issue or not. Sorry, you're having a problem. Let's look and see how we get that fixed for you as quickly as we can. So we went through that whole thing. The fun word, we should have put fulfillment in there. Did you have fun this week? That's not my job. Did you have a really crappy week, but you felt as though you did your best? Yeah, that's fulfillment. And I think there's a difference there, and you can work from 9 to 5:30 on the dot, or you can work all the hours of the day. At the end of the week, if you go, that was a tough week, but I felt as though I handled it really well, and I was supported, and I was looked after, and I was given the right encouragement by the teams to allow me to go and do that.
Yes, no, very good. Are the 16 of you, are they remote? They come to an office? Is it a hybrid?
Yeah, I think it's one of the impacts of COVID. The biggest adjustment for us in COVID was for me, because I take my energy from people. So it's great having a conversation and it's interesting and you can do it on a screen and you recharge a little bit from that. But when you've got people in the room, you take energy from each other.
Mm.
And you also should give energy, should top up as well as, and that was a difficult adjustment for me. So the upside was, we all knew as technologists that remote working worked. 2019 and before, we all knew that IT worked and you could work from anywhere, anytime. It was easy. What we didn't have was a lot of customers who believed that. And then February 2020, the world went home and everybody went, oh my God, everything's still working. There
Mm.
was some adjustment going on, without a doubt. So and what we had is government saying you should work from home if you can.
Mm.
So that adjustment was a really big one for me personally in terms of how to ensure my teams are safe and productive. I won't hide it. Are they doing their job properly? Do they feel as though they're being looked after? How do we do all that? So that adjustment was there. What we never had from government at any point is, if you can work from the office, you should go back to the office now. No one in government has ever said that, and that's Scottish government and UK government. And I think that has been the biggest mistake they've made for business
Mm.
since COVID. Is not, we've told everybody to go and work from home if you can, which was the right thing to do. But the
Mm.
right thing for the economy afterward was, if you can return to the office, you should.
Mm.
And that, if you can imagine all the public sector workers, all the big offices that are in Glasgow and Edinburgh and Aberdeen, filled up with people already because people have the confidence, because government has said, off you go back to work if you can. Only if you can, only if it's safe. And then it's a business decision. Government were making decisions on behalf of business. So
Yeah.
that struggle there was a difficult one, I feel.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Many companies have ended up with a hybrid. They come
Yeah.
at least twice, 2 days a week or 3 days a week in the office. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and that's what we have, because our employees believe that that is what their rights are. And I have a great team, and we've had this conversation. I can't go anywhere as an employer with that.
mm,
I've got a workforce who's not my. We business, not just me, has an entire population of people who are in the workforce who believe that they have a right to work from flexible working.
mm,
Because government hasn't said, if you can work from your office, you should go back to it.
yeah,
I think that would have changed the economy a year and a half, 2 years ago. I think we would have had city centres would have been busier,
yeah,
retailers, small shops would have been, coffee, all these things
yeah,
would have been busier.
yeah. No, interesting insight. Yeah. What are the aspirations for the business for the next 5 years?
Yeah, it's a good question. When I saw that written down, and actually I'm going through that in my head just now. Um, I think the business as it is outgrowing me. I think it needs something that will take it to the next level. And whether that's a collaboration or how that works out, I'm unsure because it hasn't happened. Only way you can be sure is when something happens. So what we're trying to work out just now is what happens next. I've got a great team. I've got a team that doesn't really need me in the office. They need me, and I don't like using the word strategic because it's tactical. They need me more for the tactics, and the operational stuff takes care of itself. So looking at the business now and into the next couple of years, it's got a fabulous team working it. It's got a fantastic customer base. We're slightly embarrassed by the customer base that we have in a positive way for the size of company that we are. And it's taking that to the next level. And that either needs, it's back to cash. That needs a lot of cash or a much bigger structure than we are capable of delivering right now. That may change as we go through the next stages.
Okay. Now tell me, do you have a favorite movie?
Yes, yeah. So movies are entertainment. I want to be entertained when I sit down for an hour. And for the longest time, it's been True Lies, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I think if you look at it as a pastiche of spy movies, it's almost a slapstick comedy back to that uh, odd couple. But it's clever and it's smart and it's got good one-liners. And I like Schwarzenegger. I think Schwarzenegger is someone. He's the epitome of you. The body that looks back from you in the mirror is the body you deserve. you know,
Yeah.
and that's either the body of work you've got in your company, or, you know, your decoration, or your physical body. What
Yeah.
looks back at you out of the mirror is the body you deserve.
Yeah.
And I think it's thoroughly entertaining. Jamie Lee Curtis is a very funny actress as well,
Mm.
an actor. But the whole thing, and it was big budget. It was a huge budget at the time. It was the most expensive movie, so it was like, wow. And it's entertaining. I love it. It makes me snort when I watch it still.
Yes. Yeah. For me, a great movie is when you can disconnect,
Yeah,
and get
sure.
totally immersed in it. Yeah. Brilliant. Um, if you could choose a superpower, what would you go for?
Mm. See, I believe everybody's got a superpower, and mine is convincing other people to get the best out of themselves. But that's not really a Tony Stark one, is it? And he was never really a superpower. Flying's easy, you know. Flying is easy, but time travel, you know,
Time. Yeah.
but I would only want to go forward. I think if I went back, I'd be too tempted to tinker. And I tell you what, whatever, you know, we have all done moments that still make us go, shit, pardon my, but
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, my God, what did I do? But it's behind me, you know, it's behind me.
Yes.
And
Correct.
I think I've apologized for the embarrassing moments or upsetting other people,
Yes.
but I'd love time travel. I would love to go forward and see um, what my great grandchildren looked like and what they were up to.
Mhm.
That I find that very interesting.
Yeah, wonderful. There is the thing of many people spend a lot of the time in the past or in the future, but not in the
Mm.
present.
Yeah,
And a great, I heard somebody say that the balance is to have, you go to the past in your head, you go to the past 5% of the time to draw good things from the past, rather than to regret or pain or whatever, but to draw positivity and the good things from the past. And then 5% in the future, but 90% in the present.
yeah,
I'm more of the type, thinking always forward looking. And sometimes we
yeah.
forget to live in the present. When you're having a drink with a friend, to be present with that person, when you're with your wife or your kids. But yeah, interesting.
I deliberately try and leave my phone not just face down, but in my bag as much as I can. Now, I don't get me wrong. I like social media. I like the voyeurism of social media. I like learning from YouTube. We bought a camper van, so you know, YouTube is a wonderful learning tool for me. Being dyslexic, it's a
Yeah.
visual learning aid.
Yes.
But as much as I can, my phone is face down or not in the same room when something important, and that is wife and family
Brilliant.
and friends, you know,
Yeah.
and it has to be, because if it's that important, it will ring. And actually, my phone's latterly in the last year and a half, my phone is never on silent.
Yeah.
So I know if I get a phone call, I can deal with it. But that's where we're at. I
Yeah.
agree with you. The
Yeah.
present is really important.
Yeah. Well, and that's a decision to take, because many people don't think about it and they have a mobile phone when they're having a meal, face up on the table. And it's a decision one has to stop. And what lifestyle do I want to live? Do I want to
Yeah,
have my phone with me all the time and be distracted and be interrupted, or put it away on a basket in the house at meal times or in the bag or whatever? It's a decision that each one has to make, and
yeah,
rather than, not doing anything and laissez-faire, life goes on and the mobile phone takes over. Yeah. Interesting.
yeah. One of my friends takes a compact camera with him now when he's on holiday, and but it's because the temptation is you take your phone out because it's got a
Correct.
camera in it. So he puts his phone in his pocket and he's got a cut. So if it's worth taking a photograph, he takes a photograph, and if it's worth then keeping, he takes
Yes.
it off the camera.
Yes.
Because if he takes his phone out, it's a distraction.
Emails, WhatsApp, and I had to
Yeah,
take a
yeah,
photo. Sorry, guys.
absolutely, absolutely.
Brilliant. What advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
Um, It's a really good question, and I think depending where I am in terms of the peaks and troughs of what I'm doing just now in the moment, rather than, you know, I think what you're saying there about in the moment, where am I right now? Am I euphoric high or am I in a cesspit low? And I think there is that buzz. You know, people, it sounds exaggerated, but most people are in that middle part. You know,
Mm.
most people are not running a business and not worrying about paying the salary of 19 or 16 people. What would I be more curious? I think what I'm very good at is disarming people through questioning, and all my friends say, if we're out for being entertained or food or whatever, or visiting someone else, I will always ask, you know, the receptionist or the maitre d' or whoever it's going to be, how are you today? How's your day been? Because I like that energy back. I like that and be more curious earlier rather than going, well, I'm not speaking to them, or why would I was too bad. Ask more questions. And the simple question is, how are you today? You know, how are you doing today? How's your day going? And you know, if you've had a crap day and someone asks you that question, it lightens the load slightly. So 18-year-old self, be a little bit more curious. And with that, be more confident, you know, not arrogant, but confident, I think.
Yes. I love it. I love the phrase you said, be curious earlier.
Yes.
One. Nice one.
Yeah, I got to be. And then you learn. That allows you to experiment. You know, you only touch fire once, but you've got to touch fire. You know, everybody will tell you it's hot, but at some point you're going to touch something hot and go, I'm never doing that again. So being curious allows you to experiment.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, Graeme, thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure having you on board with us at Business Spotlight series, and for sharing your experience and wisdom with us today. Thank you.
You're welcome. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thanks.